Hey, kid, what do you have there?
Oh, this? Just a boring bowl of cereal. Knockoff brand at that.
Well, that's lame and you're lame. Let's fix it. Whoa!
Awesome!
Nails, part of your daily metal breakfast. Brutal Legend is a hack-and-slash, semi-open-world game punctuated with RTS, combat segments. Brutal Legend was developed by Double Fine Productions and released February 26th, 2013. I feel dirty for simply saying Double Fine Productions rather than Double Fine! One only needs to boot the game up a few times to see why.
Double fine! Double fine!
Double fine!
Double fine!
Hey there, kids. Do you like metal music? Do you like Jack Black? Do you like Ozzy Osbourne? Do you know who Lemmy is? If you do, this is the game for you!
Here's the deal. In my opinion, the people who will enjoy this game the most are those that either enjoy metal and rock culture and or know the history of metal bands, figures, and icons. Now, that's not to say someone else who won't enjoy Brutal Legend. It's very likely that most people will enjoy it. As long as you realize the game is part story-driven RPG, part RTS, part open world, part driving, you get the idea. Brutal Legend has a lot of subgenres, and it excels in some genres more than in others. Let's start off with Brutal Legend's story. You play as the protagonist, Eddie Riggs, whom is voiced by my favorite, Jack Black.
My favorite what? My favorite in what way? What else do you need to know? He's my favorite. Jack Black is my favorite.
Eddie is a roadie. Basically, a roadie is a crew member of a band who works behind the scenes to make the lead musicians look good. That being said, Eddie is quite fond of metal music himself. He finds himself wishing for the good old days of metal.
Ever feel like you were born in the wrong time? Like you should have been born earlier? When the music was real?
Like the 70s?
Earlier. Like the early 70s.
So up to this point, everything is presumably taking place in the real world. And then a terrible accident takes place, and Eddie gets hurt. His blood drips into his belt buckle, and this summons Ormagodon, an ancient creature and basically known as a god of metal. Eddie is then sent back to the Age of Metal. It's either back in time or a parallel universe or something. But who cares? Look at this world. It's so metal. The rest of the game is spent building up a resistance army to fight against the demon Doviculus. Well, first you have to fight Lion White, and then you eventually progress to fighting Doviculus. Now would be a good time to interject the three factions. This is more relevant in multiplayer where you choose a faction, but the factions are Ironhead, with an E at the end so you know we're serious.
Listen up! In honor of you guys, we're calling this new army Ironhead. With an E on the end so people know we're not messing around.
Ironhead.
I like it. Right on!
I don't get it.
Ironhead is the faction you play in the single-player main story game. Each unit has pros and cons, you begin to learn how to use them. It's only really relevant when you start to get into the RTS side of the game. The second faction is Drowning Doom. Lore-wise, it's composed of humans who drank from the Sea of Black Tears. The last faction is the Tainted Coil, which is made up of demons. Enough said. Before we move on to talking about gameplay mechanics, I would like to point out that other than Jack Black voicing Eddie Riggs, Brutal Legend has a stellar cast of voice actors, including Lemmy Killmister, who voices a character known as the Kill Master. And my subscribers thought my puns were hard to digest. Ozzy Osbourne voices the Guardian of Metal.
The Guardian of Metal welcomes you.
Kyle Gass, Lita Ford, and others make appearances within the game as well. Additionally, there are references to metal bands, albums, and more. I begrudgingly must admit to you that while I do consider myself a metalhead, I don't have extensive personal experience with band names, personalities, and stuff like that. I simply like to listen to the music. So a lot of these elements escaped me when I first played through them, but I have a stronger appreciation after returning to the game. Moving on to the gameplay part of the review, Brutal Legend was released on PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and PC. Of course, I'm reviewing this from the perspective of a PC user. Apparently Double Fine hadn't originally planned on porting its game to the PC. As far as I can tell, the game feels quite good. Attacks, commands, mouse to look, key bindings, and the option to re-keybind if needed are all accounted for and work appropriately and as expected. It's also worth noting that you can at any point of the game adjust the game's difficulty, profanity filter, and gore. When you start a new game, the game will pause in the introduction to ask if you want to enable or disable any of the aforementioned features. The key and reoccurring mechanic I feel you spend the most time doing is hacking and slashing. There are several different combos you can use, and there are more combos you can purchase as upgrades. Unfortunately, as most people probably know, if you're not given any real incentive to use one combo over another, you will default to the simplest form of that combo that does the most damage. The basic combos you get starting out get the job done, so why learn any more advanced combos? I click, 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 click to do damage, right click, left click at the same time to stun enemies around me, and right click to do range damage. The final key worth noting is that by holding the spacebar, you block incoming attacks. I personally didn't find the combat very engaging after the first few hours of the same combos. I feel that if a hack and slash is to be successful, you need to get something for hacking and slashing, be it some form of currency, experience, aesthetics, achievements, or at least a score. But to my knowledge, you get virtually nothing from hacking and slashing, except for being part of the massive troops when playing in an RTS. And when you're in the open world, you might as well skip killing stuff and just run people over with your car. Although I should mention, if you assist patrols, you'll get fire tributes. But there are way easier ways to get fire tributes than grinding squads in the open world. Speaking of open world, Brutal Legend has quite the scenic and atmospheric open world. I've always been a big sucker for big open worlds to wander around in and quest and explore. Unfortunately, the rewards for doing so aren't that helpful. You'll get some fire tributes for completing quests, some for beating packs of NPCs, some for making jumps in your car, and there are a couple other minor ways of getting fire tributes. Fire tributes are the currency in the game. Take it from me, if you explore or just poke around, you'll be rolling in these things. Fire tributes are spent at the Flame Forge, also known as the place where you summon the Prince of Darkness, Ozzy Osbourne himself.
I'm Ozzy Osbourne, and I'm the Prince of Darkness.
There's not much more to mention regarding Brutal Legend's open world aspects. There are a couple side quests you can do, but the game's story is quite linear. You'll reach certain points where it basically says, okay, if you want to go do extra crap, you can do it now. If not, go to this marker to continue on with the story. As you unlock new abilities, there will be additional things you can do within the open world. Free bound serpents, release artifacts of legend, raise buried metal statues, and use landmark viewers. Naturally, as you would expect, to get 100% for exploration, you need to do all the things, to find all the things, with everything. But you get the idea. There's plenty to do in the open world, even if the game doesn't encourage it. I feel that there's enough extra stuff to do that it'll keep most overachievers or completionists content with content. I just noticed those words were spelt the same. Now let's move on to the RTS part of the game. To progress in the main story, you need to get familiar with the RTS aspect of Brutal Legend. Okay, so let's cover the basics. This is what you will see for the RTS sections of the game. You build these fan booths. These fan booths allow you to gain fans, which then let you get unit upgrades and stage upgrades. This is your stage. Once this stage is destroyed, you lose. Conversely, if you destroy the enemy stage over on the other side of the map, they lose. So, let's get started with some of the basics. You play as your character. You cannot take things by yourself. This is an RTS section, so you have to rely on boosting and leading your troops into combat rather than trying to fight your way in yourself. For example, if I try to attack this tower by myself, I will be knocked back and stunned. You really can't do that on your own. It's not a good idea. Instead, you need to build units. So, to cover the controls of the game, you fly by pressing F to land, F to fly. I'm going to talk from a keyboard's perspective. If you want to start calling up troops, you hold down your tab button, and then you use your mouse to select what type of unit you want by dragging your cursor in that direction. So we want one of these, one of these, one of these. Let's just do another one of those, and as you can see, there's a queue that appears in the top right of the screen, and there's a countdown clock timer. Once it counts down, they're summoned from your stage, and they appear at the spawning location, which is currently set to here. There are some solos that you can do that will allow you to change that. The solos are available to you if you hold down your Q button. And so you can see, as Ironhead, you have a summoning flag, which will rally them to your location. You can set your spawn. Rally flag. Here it is, rally army. So rally army is to summon all of your squads to your location. Summon your rally flag to your location. The rally flag is where they're going to spawn at. So if we set the rally flag over here, let's see if we can finish this before those units are done. Did we do it? Okay, yep, there you go. So they're going to go over there. So let's cover the basics of troop movement, shall we? You command your troops by using your number keys. Your first number key will give you this red icon. That indicates to attack. Anything near that icon, your troops will now attack. Your second key is your stand here and fight key. So everyone goes to where you currently have placed that marker, and that marker will be directly where you are standing. 3 is to indicate for them to go to the place where you've set your marker. This one's a little bit more complicated. With a keyboard and mouse, you hold down your mouse 3 or your scroll wheel, and you set where you want that to be. And this is the best weapon, I think, of the entire thing. So you can set it on over yonder t-shirt fan booth, hit 3, and they go all the way over there. But there might be another situation where you want to lead them manually. In that case, you can press 4, and then your troops will follow you into battle. But nobody likes people that are too clingy. So let's just hit 3, and we'll send them over to go take over that fan booth for us. So as you can see, you can upgrade your stage here. As you upgrade your stage, you gain new troops. The first upgrade unlocks these troops. And then the next upgrade will unlock these troops, I think. The final upgrade will unlock the Rock Crusher, or the highest costing troop. As you can see, there is also a limit to how many troops you can have. Let's see here. Smaller troops require less, so you can have more of them. Bigger troops, you can really only have one of them. So here we go. Our troops have now reached it to the tower. Let's buff them while they cap this. And then while they're doing this, let's set our troops to be ready to attack there next. So now as soon as this tower goes down, I'll hit 3. They'll move to attack the enemy base, and we'll see if we can just quickly kill them. So while this place is currently opened up, we got to make sure that we build our fan booth here first, because I have ninja'd fan booths from the enemy before. So you always want to make sure when a booth goes down that you are there to recap it as soon as possible. So this is one of the parts where it'd be a better idea to stick close to your current troops so that you can protect them while they attack. As soon as this stage starts being attacked, you can know the AI player is going to react immediately, even if we are currently playing the easiest difficulty. It's easier to talk about it if you're playing on an easier difficulty, just saying. I'm expecting to see Doviculus any second. Let's do a buffing one. It'd be really nice if we could win this within the first few minutes. Nah, it's not going to happen. But to illustrate, let's show what happens when you die. Fight me. 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 Not much happens. There's not much consequence for dying in this game other than inconvenience. Bah! Death! So as you can see, then the fans bring you all the way back to your stage, and you're revived, and you can run back and do your own thing and regroup with your troops and send them off to be killed in the meat grinder. There's still a significant amount of damage that was done to the stage. So if we kept pushing, we may have potentially won. But again, this is on the easier difficulty. It would be smarter just to take one booth at a time and then just keep on building up fans until you were able to summon the highest units. That's the typical RTS route. Unless, of course, I don't know, if you're playing online against other people, there's probably a better strategy. But you can always try different things. And against a human player, they may actually miss something so simple as that. So it's never a bad idea to consider that in the realm of the strategy of the game. I would love to talk about the multiplayer, but I've never done it. Every time I've queued, I've never actually been matched with anyone. Although I do think it would be fun if you can coordinate with a friend and play against each other. It's a nice feature to have, but underused and definitely a forgotten dusty corner of the game. I should mention you can go against the AI and choose between which difficulty you want your AI to be. The multiplayer is basically the regular game RTS sections. The only difference is you have all your troops unlocked. You can choose between playing as Ironhead, Tainted Coil, or Drowning Doom, each having its own troops, and probably different styles of play. But again, I can't really tell you much about this aspect. I normally stick with Ironhead, but that's only because I don't feel like learning other units. That being said, I'm still an achiever, and no, most of the achievements I need are in multiplayer. It's sad, really. This is the game, and Super Meat Boy, that crushed my achieving spirit. Alright, before we wrap up this review, there's a final subtopic I've saved for the last bit of this video. I of course speak of the reception of my Steam written review for Brutal Legend. This one review is probably one of the more stupid reasons my Steam profile has gotten attention from people. Several people have taken it upon themselves to post insulting messages to my profile, telling me, quote, "Your Brutal Legend review sucks. You just don't get it." And stuff like, "Leave Brutal Brittany alone."
To those people, if you were one of the people that left one of those types of comments on my profile, read the stupid review!
Here's the deal. When you write a Steam review, at this time you can either recommend or not recommend someone to purchase the game. When I wrote the review, I had finished grinding the heck out of the game. I was particularly sick of the hack and slash nature, and the lack of interest to keep the combat refreshing and interesting. That being said, I praised the game on many qualities, much like the tone I took for this review. I feel that people who will appreciate the game most are those that either enjoy or are part of metal culture in some way or fashion. Let me regale you in
Atratzu reads his Brutal Legend review from June 24th, 2014 at 3:37 p.m.
Okay, this is taking too long to make my point. And a lot of people probably thumbs down the review just because of my atrocious writing.
We made it! To summarize, the story was entertaining, I loved the voice actors, I loved the lore, I enjoyed the humor. The gameplay was rather bland, but as long as you're not over-grinding to get achievements like I was, it does not overstay its welcome, and at least you have the story to drive you through your first playthrough. There's plenty of extra non-combat related content to keep you exploring in the world, but again, there's not much reward for being a completionist. Unless you really dig accessories on your car. And, not gonna lie, some of those upgrades were pretty sick. Once again, let me personally thank you for sticking it through to the end of this review. If you made it this far, you could totally comment saying, "I did it! I made it through Atratzu's review to the end!" Or, you know, I guess you could just like the video. But you definitely should subscribe if you haven't. And stay tuned for more Atratzu reviews. As always, thanks for watching. My name's Atratzu, and I approve this review. Atratzu signing off.